How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Doing fine.
Okay, my name is Funderburk, as you know. I'm doing an informative presentation on mixed martial arts. As you see here, we have the Ultimate Fighting Championship logo. And we're going to begin here with this next slide. As real as it gets. UFC is the largest MMA promotion in the world. It is where the best of the best come to compete in hopes of being recognized as a champion in his weight class. The UFC features 7 weight classes that range from 145 to 205 and up. They're bantam, feather, light, welter, middle, light heavyweight, and heavyweight are the weight classes. Pretty much, this is done for like safety reasons. You know, you can't have a heavyweight going up against a lightweight in the fight because, of course, the heavyweight would destroy the lightweight because of the weight differences. It's something that MMA in general does. Every fight promotion that you'll see, like I said, there's UFC that we're focusing on here, has these weight classes, and as I said again, they're for safety reasons. And there's a championship for each one of these weight classes. Let's go to our next slide. What is MMA? Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is a full contact sport that pits 2 fighters against one another in 3-round and 5-round bouts. The UFC has their own set of rules that they go by that are kind of like the universal rules right now. Fighters use various arts and disciplines against one another in order to succeed in their ultimate goal, victory. Right here you have a well-known fighter named Nick Diaz. He has Evangelista Cyborg Santos in an armbar, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's one of the many forms that you'll see fighters using in the UFC and other fight promotions such as Strikeforce and Bellator. Let's go to our next slide here. The arts of mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts consists of many different disciplines. Here are a few of the main arts that one might see in the MMA contest. There's boxing, of course, which is just standard, you know, 1, 2, your straights, your uppercuts, your hooks. In MMA, it's important to have good stand-up because every round, whether it's 3, whether it's 5, starts standing, every round. So if you're going up against a guy who has better boxing than you and you don't have any stand-up skills, you better have a good ground game. You better be able to take this guy down because this guy is going to mess you up. Which brings us to our next art, wrestling. Right now in today's MMA, wrestling is becoming more and more prominent. You'll see a lot more champions with a wrestling base. Guys like Rashad Evans, who's a former light heavyweight champion, top-notch wrestler. He takes his opponents down, he beats them down, they can't get back up. In order to counter wrestling, you either need to have good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or good wrestling yourself, takedown defense. If you can stuff the takedown, stop the takedown from occurring, you'll be able to survive that round, win the round. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is submissions. You'll find guys that might be, you know, 205 light heavyweights going against one another. One might be a little more big, you know, more built up. You know, once it hits the ground, if you're on your back, you know, people might think that are new to MMA, you know, casual fans that, oh, that guy's on his back, he's losing the fight. That guy might be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he can get you in a triangle, an arm bar. You know, there are various submissions, a go-go plata, alma plata, and he'll lock you in that, and you'll have no choice but to tap out or go to sleep. Guillotine chokes. You know, people, a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists wait for a wrestler to try to take them down, and they'll get their arm right under that neck, lock them up in a submission, put them away. Brings us to kickboxing. Like I said, similar to boxing, you know, with kicks. Like I said, you have a good K1 strikers are really good in kickboxing, you know, and another person isn't as well versed in that, it could be a short night. Judo is another grappling kind of art, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the judo hip throws and, you know, things of that nature. Muay Thai is another stand-up art, you know, utilizes the clinch and knees. Guys like Anderson Silva, who is a very popular fighter, MMA champion right now, locks you in the clinch. Hard to get out of. He'll hit you with knees and punish the middle of your body. It hurts. Let's bring us to our next slide here. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on. These are the rules that you will see in your typical MMA fight. The rules of a typical MMA contest are simple. Fighters cannot throw knees to the head of a downed opponent. So pretty much, you know how I told you with Muay Thai, as long as the opponent is down, meaning they have a knee down like this, you can't throw a knee to their head. Because they can't really defend that. They'll take it to the head, fight will be over before it even started. There's no biting, hair pulling, poking, headbutts, or low blows. Those are forbidden. You can get disqualified at the worst. At maybe a slap on the wrist is a point deducted, which can be very important in a close fight. Other than that, the fighters compete in 5-minute rounds, 3 in non-title fights. Unless the UFC has actually changed some of the rules, unless it's a main event fight, those are 5 rounds now, and those are 5 minutes also. So next slide. The methods of victory in an MMA contest. Fighters can attain victory a number of ways in MMA. Here are a few of the possible methods of victory. There's knockout. Simple. Boom, boom, boom. Kicks to the face, knees to the face, head to the face, strikes of any kind. Could put a guy away. In their night. There are submissions. Like it shows you early in the slide, Nick Diaz getting the guy in the arm bar. Guys have a choice of whether they want to tap out or not. But when your arm is getting pulled away from you, it's good to just tap out. Sometimes you can verbally submit. Maybe a guy's hitting you with strikes. And you really just can't continue. That's called a verbal submission. Fight ends the same way as a regular submission. There's technical knockout. You're rocked really bad, you got hit with a bad shot, you're still trying to hang in there, but the ref's seen enough, you're getting tagged, you're not defending yourself, technical knockout. You have doctor stoppage. You get beat up so bad you can't continue, the doctor calls it. It's happened to many fighters. I remember seeing a fight when I was little. Guy had really bad cauliflower ear, he was fighting Kimbo Slice, Kimbo busted the cauliflower ear, they stopped the fight. It was pretty nasty. There's disqualification. This happened to one of my favorite fighters, John Jones. He was fighting a guy named Matt Hamill. He hit him with some illegal elbow strikes to the ground. He was dominating the fight, but he busted Hamill up pretty bad, and that's why that's against the rules, and they had no choice but to disqualify him. Hamill could continue. And then there's decision. That means, guys, it might have been a one-sided fight. A guy might get a 30-27, for the decision, he'll win. Or you have your guys who have a close fight, but this guy edged the other fighter, and that's called a split decision. You have the fights where it's really close, and sometimes the decision can be a draw. It happens. It happened to Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard. They fought for the title. Both guys just went at it nonstop for 5 rounds, ended in a draw. But in the rematch, Frankie knocked Gray out. So anything can happen in the UFC. There are so many different methods of victory. So on our next slide here. There are notable fighters and fight promotions, as I mentioned before. Some of the more notable fight promotions are the UFC, of course, which is the biggest one. That's cream of the crop. You have Strikeforce, Dream, M1 Global, Bellator, and BAMMA. BAMMA is a British fighting organization. Dream is a Japanese fighting organization. Strikeforce actually just got bought by the UFC a few months ago, so you can pretty much group those two together. M1 Global is mainly like a Russian international kind of organization. Bellator is the new one coming up. It's more of like a tournament style. It's getting a lot of popularity right now. Notable fighters include Anderson Silva, who many consider to be the pound for pound best fighter in the world. This gentleman on the left here. He fights at 185. The guy's a monster. I mean, he can submit you. He can knock you out. He's excellent. You have George St. Pierre, Canadian wrestler. He's the 170-pound champion right now. John Jones. He's who everyone's really going for right now. He's being considered the Muhammad Ali of MMA. He's that good right now. I mean, he's the 205 champ. You have guys who are really great, who have, he's like a legend pretty much. BJ Penn, people love BJ Penn. Guy's a warrior. He goes out there and he puts it on for everybody every night. You have Hall of Famers like Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Matt Hughes, and Tito Ortiz, guys who have fought over the years, got a lot of following, and just, like I said, put it on for the fans. Go to our next slide here. International popularity. The UFC has credited it with being the main source of MMA's recent surge stateside and its increased popularity worldwide. To date, the UFC has held events in countries like Canada, Brazil, Japan, the UK, Australia, Abu Dhabi, and Germany, with many more soon to come. I mean, it's surging. I mean, everywhere they're trying to spread this thing all over the world. Anywhere. It's really becoming a big thing. Let's go to our next slide here. The fight that changed it all. While many hardcore fans can tell you of the many wars that they've witnessed over the years, MMA's surge in the 2000s can mainly be accredited to what is dubbed by the UFC president Dana White as the most important fight in MMA history. Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar in a 3-round war in the Ultimate Fighter finale. So pretty much the UFC wanted to reach out to people who kind of knew about it, but didn't really have an entryway into it. He created The Ultimate Fighter, and it was a reality TV show for guys who were, amateur fighters, professional fighters, guys who wanted to, make a name for themselves and get into the UFC. And it's pretty much a tournament. The finals of this tournament had 2 fighters, Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar. Both were really good light heavyweight fighters, and they competed in a 3-round war, and it was a complete war. It was bloody, it was close. But in the end, Forrest Griffin edged out Stephan Bonnar to get the win, and in doing so, it surged the fan base so high. So many people turned their attention. The Ultimate Fighter has been going on for many years now, and it's actually in its 15th season. It's just taken off. So to our final slide here. Closing comments. MMA continues to rise in popularity despite inaccuracies as to what the sport actually represents. Some people still see it as nothing more than a blood sport, but MMA is far from it. Safety is the primary concern of the UFC and all other fight promotions. But however, because of these inaccuracies, some states have yet to legalize MMA. This prevents some fighters, such as UFC light heavyweight champion John Jones, from fighting in his home state of New York. MMA is a sport just like any other, and at the rate that it's progressing, it could be as big as any other in years to come. I really truly think that this thing if at the rate it's going right now, it could surpass the NFL. I mean, you have to think like this: NFL is here, America, but this thing is spreading internationally. It's global, and the rise in popularity, and as many more people start to see these fights and start to see that this isn't brutes. This isn't people just going out here to fight. These guys are tacticians. This guy's not coming out just throwing at you. This guy has been training for months to beat you. He has a discipline. He has a game plan set for you. He's going to submit you. He's going to try to knock you out, but he's going to do it in a way that's tactical. He's not just coming out here just to throw, And I think when people really get into that and really see what it's really about, it'll just continue to grow as it is already. I mean, that's all I can say on that point. And like I said, there have been some states like New York that aren't on board yet, but once they get on board, and people have been making great strides to get this thing going in New York, once a state like New York gets MMA, and they're fighting in Madison Square Garden, and this is going to be better than the big boxing matches of old. This is going to be what people come to see. You got people that are waiting for Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao to fight. This is going to be so much bigger than that, because this is going to be guys that you actually know. This is going to be more than just two guys. That's what MMA gives you. It gives you more than just two guys. It gives you a whole roster of fighters in all these different weight classes. And like I said, it's taking off, and hopefully this informative presentation will make a fan out of you, maybe catch the next UFC event, because I promise you one thing: it's worth it and you'll enjoy yourself. Thank you for coming. I'm done.